So Little Mermaid is a live-action remake of the 1989 beloved animated classic from Disney Studios. The original film was written and directed by Ron Clements and Howard Musker. John Musker, excuse me. Two very prominent creatives at Disney that are fundamentally responsible for the Disney Renaissance. I'll explain what that is in a second. But for the film, The Little Mermaid is the story of Ariel, one of King Triton's 7 daughters, the royal ruler of the seas, who is frustrated with her life. Ariel is frustrated that she has to live below the waves, and there's all these exciting things happening just above the surface, right? Boats and ships crossing the ocean, and a handsome young prince named Eric, on one in particular, who she finds a fancy for one night during a fireworks show. But she strikes a Faustian bargain with a sea witch, Ursula, to sacrifice her voice in order to grow legs, go on land, meet Eric, and hopefully forge the love of her life. And she, in just 3 days' time, it's quite the deal. Without a voice, will Ariel be able to rise to the challenge, become human, and hopefully embrace the life she wants, or will she be trapped to a life of being a princess below the waves? The movie is The Little Mermaid. It's about 2.5 hours long. Andy, what'd you think?
So overall, I didn't really like it, but there's a lot that does work there. I like half of it. Like there's things that work, and then there's a lot that doesn't. There's a lot of filler. I think just simply trimming up the film, like it's 2 hours 15 minutes, way too long for a kids feature. But if you kind of trim some of that down, I think it would work better. But there are some highlights. There are some good moments. Some of the music, some of the visuals are really great. But it just goes on forever. The longest mermaid. That's what I would call it.
Yes. I've got a tragically lukewarm take on this movie. I really do. It's not a good take. It's a bad take. I know it's a bad take because it's the same take I have on most of these live action features. But I'm going to save that for the end. I just want to take a minute and talk about what works in this movie, because fundamentally, Little Mermaid live action remake uses every element of what is successful about the first movie. And the Little Mermaid came out in 1989. And for the people who don't remember, it fundamentally started what is the Disney Renaissance, that thing I mentioned in the intro. In the 80s, Disney is starting to flounder with their animated department. They don't really have direction. Walt Disney is dead and gone. They need somewhere to go. And CEO Michael Eisner figures, hey, you know what? Maybe we can start buying old properties just like Disney did when he bought the rights to Snow White and he bought the rights to Winnie the Pooh and bought the rights to Mary Poppins. Maybe we can take old stories and adapt them into something that kids might like. And with the help of Ron Clements and John Musker, they produced The Little Mermaid in 1989, which immediately kicks off a string of very memorable Disney features. I mean, you can rattle them off in your head, right? Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Hercules. These are movies that come out of, them, basically, taking the studio in a bold new direction. And part of the reason that works is because Little Mermaid is a very tight 90-minute feature, that has a really solid plot all the way through. You've got your young, very likable lead protagonist. So you got your fun underwater setting and her overbearing father. You got the prince, who they kind of dance back and forth a couple times before they actually meet. The sea witch, who takes her voice. The challenge of trying to get to know him and hopefully get him to fall in love with you through all of Act 2. The big Act 3 finale. If you've seen the movie, you know everything that happens. And when Disney does a live action remake, they either go with exactly what worked before, or they wander off a little bit and go in a different direction, like Mary Poppins Returns or Cruella, which is actually pretty well received. This movie does the former. It follows the original to the letter. I thought that extra half hour in the runtime would, I don't know, expand it or grow it. And it doesn't really do a whole lot. It's just longer because it can't move as fast as animation can. They're people, right? They gotta, things just move a little slower. And there's a couple extra songs, 3 extra songs to be specific. Andy, when was the last time you saw the original?
I don't remember. This was actually the first movie I ever saw in a theater, though.
Really?
That.
Oh my God! Well, that's
1989.
That's a great throwback. Yeah, and here we are, all the way back here. I'm sure it played great in a theater. I think this movie has everything good about the original one in here. It's actually great start. You've got you open on Eric, which is cool. Open above the sea, and then he loses something over the side of the boat as it tumbles down. You get your opening credits. Ariel finds it with Flounder. She's collecting stuff because she's got her grotto of human things that she keeps and sings about because it's very heartfelt to her. Dad doesn't like it. He's got a little history with the old world of humans, and he wants nothing to do with them. Bottom. Like all that stuff plays really well. Like all of that works fantastic. Ursula the Sea Witch, played by Melissa McCarthy, is not bad. And I should say, really quick while I'm thinking about it, the standout performance here is 100% Halle Bailey. The rumors are true. The critics are correct. Like not only is she singing great, like she's probably the best part of this movie. Melissa McCarthy's fine. She gets a couple good lines off. Honestly, better than I thought she would be as Ursula. And of course, there's Jonah Hauer-King, who plays Eric, who I'm not familiar with what he's been in previous, but he's a little lukewarm. He's a little fine in this movie. Like he's not great. Eric's a bit of an airhead anyway, so I think that's like to be expected. He's okay.
Yeah, our cast is pretty solid. Halle Bailey is great. She has an incredible voice. Definitely deserves this role. Javier Bardem as King Triton is good. He's not in the movie enough. He kind of had a larger role, I feel, or more scenes. Melissa McCarthy did do better as Ursula than I kind of gave her credit for, but I also feel like she's restrained because she's basically just mimicking the performance from the anime. I mean, she does the poor unfortunates. Like it's all the lines, and that's one of the problems with these. Like you know what's coming, and you're like, oh, here's the song, here's the line. Here's the next line. So it would have been interesting to see what she could have done, just given more room to kind of be herself. Then we also have the voice talents of David Diggs as the crab Sebastian, Jacob Tremblay as Flounder, and Aquafina as Scuttle the seagull. They're actually in the movie quite a bit. They're Ariel's friends, of course, reprise roles from the animated bit. Aquafina is a little annoying in this movie. She's got that grating, raspy voice, and she's got the terrible Lin-Manuel Miranda song.
Yeah, so I wanted to mention, there's 3 new songs in this feature. None of them are half as good as the original work. And all the original songs hit so good, man. Part of Your World is excellent. Like it was great in the old one. It's great in this one. Like goes big at the end. Fantastic. Poor Unfortunate Souls, charming, nefarious, love it. Eric's weird I Want song, Uncharted Waters, has a good chorus, but like weak in the open. Like as soon as you see him start singing, you're like, oh no.
You need to cut him out. We'll cut all his scenes. Just about
Eric and I Want song. Yeah. I don't recall. Ariel's actually got a decent one about the challenges of walking for the first time. It's okay. It's actually shot better than it's sung, I think. And Aquafina's got a song called Scuttlebutt, which is like, it's rough, dude. It's fine. I think if you're like, and that's worth mentioning here. Obviously, this is a children's film made for kids. Like, I think if you're a kid and you've never seen the original, like, you'll probably think this is good stuff. Like, it's surprisingly more colorful than I think a lot of these Disney live actions tend to be. It's not quite as dark, which is good. In those early trailers, I was like, there's not enough light. I can't see anything. So I'm glad they tuned it up a little bit. I think everything works above and below the waves. The CGI isn't even that bad. Like, I really wanted to hammer like some of the water effects, because after seeing something like, I don't know, Avatar 2, where they actually like filmed in water tanks, like it's a little phony watching a movie shot on green screens and be like, they're underwater. But like, it's no worse than something like Ant-Man. Like if anything, it might play better because you just, I don't know, you don't mind too much. Your brain doesn't care too much about them not really being like, it's fine. Like overall, like I think the experience of this movie is comparable to watching the original. I really do. And like I think very highly of the original. I think this one's right up there with it. Like I don't think it's a bad feature.
It's just so long. So the poor the first hour is good. The first hour was my favorite. That's where we get some of the classic songs. You get the falling out between Ariel and King Triton, and the first hour ends with Ursula, Melissa McCarthy's Poor Unfortunate Souls. That's a great first hour, but then it should wrap up in like another half hour, and there's another 75 minutes, and it feels like the movie just keeps starting over because it's like it takes so long for Ariel to lose her voice. Then she finally gets on land. It seems like it's like a whole new movie when she's on land because it's literal fish out of water. There's a weird scene where they're like in this like marketplace, and I was like, this is for when you go to Disney so they can recreate this at Disney.
I thought the same thing. It's like, this looks like a Mandalorian set that they were like, here, put a red scarf on this thing, and well this will be great. Like, yeah.
No, and it's a new song, so they'll sing the new song when you're in line at Disney or whatever the Disney parade is.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's just way too long. I think if they would have trimmed it down, like Eric doesn't need all these extra scenes. There's just the thing about like, oh, you're gonna be king one day, and you need to be more careful. No more going out on the ships for you. Yeah, he's got a backstory that can just go. We don't need it. It's all about Ariel. But yeah, the pacing is so long. I heard a conspiracy theory that these remakes are really long because they can make good babysitting options to put your kid in front of it for 2.5 hours instead of 85 minutes.
You can sneak in a great nap at 2.5 hours, like with your kid over there eating popcorn. No, a couple other things I wanted to say that I like about this before I move on to like what I struggled with, if I haven't gotten there already. Diversity needs to be celebrated in this movie. Shockingly diverse cast. Like I think people might have just seen Halle Bailey and been like, Black Ariel, how could they? Which is ridiculous. That like the worst take in 2023. But everybody in this movie is like stunningly like spread out, and I think that's a really good thing. Like we've got a marketplace full of people from all over the world. We've got a queen who's black in this movie, even though Eric is notably white. Like that stuff plays really good, and that's a great influence on kids. Like it really is. Like that's a good thing. That is a good thing to see in cinema. I'm a fan. Well done. Like good choice. And like for what it's worth, like yeah, it is long, I think, but it also feels grand. I feel like if I was a kid watching this, like by the time Ariel gets out of the water onto land, you're like, oh my god, this is like the biggest. It's like Lord of the Rings. Like it's such a big epic thing. Like it feels very large in scale because we're jumping from setting to setting. We've got a witch that comes in like 35 minutes into the feature. Like it feels very large, like, and it feels very encompassing. And I think I think it even tugs at the heartstrings in the right places. It's surprisingly emotional when Javier Bardem is like having a really sincere conversation with his daughter Ariel. Like he's great in this movie for his few scenes and is like very chill emoting. Like I think he comes across really well. Like I think all that plays really good. It's emotional, it's big, it's diverse, like good stuff.
I think part of my loss of immersion. So I saw this at the Coyote Drive-In in Fort Worth, and I was kind of
recommend real quick. Wouldn't like Coyote Drive-In because I haven't been. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's really cool because they have like an eating area with like a couple of food trucks and concessions, and then like the screens are elsewhere. You tune in with your car. It was a great little place just outside of downtown Fort Worth. But we were kind of far back, and so I couldn't get a lot of like the detail. And it's like there's cars coming in and out, there's kids running around, like it's kind of loses like I wanted to be a lot closer when the Ursula song came on because I just couldn't make out a lot of the visuals.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, we went and saw it at Alamo Draft House. Christine ordered food during Under the Sea. Which like it was funny to me because during like it's a kids movie, like I feel like the musical bits would be the parts you pay attention to, like, but we've seen the movie, it's the same song, right? And honestly, like I do think some of those songs suffer more in live action because you don't have like, you know, the extremely vibrant color palette of like an animated feature of like ink on glass, and this movie does a fine job like of getting over that way. I think for the kids in the audience that were with us, like they had a great time. It's great. So I think like in that way, I think The Little Mermaid is fine live action adaptation, one of their better ones. But like what I wanted to get at, what I've been hinting at since we started this, is this kind of fatigue I'm really getting with these live action adaptations. Like I just feel like every time I watch them, I'm thinking I'm going to be bored while I'm watching this, and then I inevitably am, because Disney can't decide whether or not they want to make it exactly the way the other one was, or they want to wander off in a different direction. And wandering off is a lot more creative, and it's a lot more engrossing for older audiences that have seen the originals. But sticking to the old ones works really good, selling tickets, right? Like, I get it. You got a bottom line. You're a business. You got to make money. So just like Beauty and the Beast, they were like, we're just going to make the same damn movie. And like, it's almost like frustratingly to a fault at times in this movie. Like Sebastian will make the same joke, the same like offhanded line, throwaway line, right? He'll say the same thing again, and it'll be in the same way, and the cut will be the same. And it's like, man, it's so similar to the old one. Like it reminded me of like that Psycho shot-for-shot remake starring Vince Vaughn.
Yeah,
like it's so close, you know, and that really did frustrate me. Like that leads to boredom for somebody like me, and that sucks. You don't want that when you're watching one of these movies.
Yeah, I felt the same way. It was like you said, the songs are coming, the lines are coming, I mean that's the thing when you can guess the dialogue before it happens, it's kind of just like, well, I already know exactly what's coming, and it's not very exciting. But again, I'm not the target audience. This
Yeah,
is aimed at children, not
and
40-year-old men.
of course, and ultimately, like I think that was the thing I wandered away from this thinking. Like while I enjoyed it, like I can't help but feel like the original Little Mermaid like was an important movie for Disney. It was really important. Like not only because it told a story really well about something really sincere and pulled an emotion from the audience that they weren't normally getting, but also because like it fundamentally was a crucial step in turning around like a studio that was beginning to decline like in one way or another, and like that happened from this incredible like blaze of creativity that came out of like a team of individuals who were like painting on glass slates and putting them under a camera and sliding them around and adding ADR later and music and being like, yeah, I think this will work, and like just cobbling a script together. And like all of that comes from like creatives that are really challenged and are pressured like coal in an oven to turn into a diamond, and that's what they made, like something so incredible that stood the test of time. And in a weird way, like it's strange to watch the remake and feel so little of that here, because it's not made by a team of people who are being squeezed like down to their last, I don't know, brain cell. Like it's made by like a team of individuals who are like copying off somebody else's homework. And like that kind of bums me out, as an old person who's not supposed to be watching these movies. Like it bums me out, and like I miss that blaze of passion that like I think those old movies had. These remakes like fundamentally lack them, and like. What if that's the Disney magic? You know what I mean? What if that's secretly the thing that has built Disney into the company they are? Like, and if these movies don't have that, I wish some did. Maybe we'll get that in Elemental next week. Maybe the Pixar Acquire was a big step for Disney. Like that was a big one, right? Like in those movies, pull at your heartstrings, like a way a lot of old features did. Maybe we'll get the live action Up remake soon. Like I don't know, but it just bummed me out. It's the one thing about this movie. Like I really wish there was a way to tweak my brain and forget the old one or something, because I can't. And this one I think didn't have that, and it bummed me out. Any other thoughts on this for recommendations, Andy?
Right. Well, just to comment on that, yeah, like I said, I'm fine with them doing a remake, but like rewrite the script. Like think of live action, not because what works in a live action film is different from what works in animation. You can, update it in a lot of ways. The dialogue, the issues. It's supposed to be a coming of age story, and it's just like you're not even trying. Like I said, you're copying someone else's homework, your own, or it's like you turn in the same report 3 years later for a different class. Yeah, and it's just bland and uninteresting.
Yeah, there was an old science project in my high school growing up that every chemistry class would do coming through. It was like make a diorama kind of thing, really simple. And Christine did it when we were going through high school. And 2 years later, when her brother came through, he was like, "Hey, can I just use your diorama?" And she was like, "Sure." So he dusted it off, took it to class, got a B plus, great. Like, and he got the satisfaction of knowing that like he did something with very little effort, like to get a great result, and like, way to go, you've outsmarted the system. But like I really would have liked to have seen what his diorama could have been. You know what I mean? And like that's how I feel about the Little Mermaid remake. Like great, like well done. Like A plus completion grade. You're gonna make a ton of money on it, but I don't know. Like I'm too old for Disney. I want more. And that's my hot take on the Little Mermaid. Andy, would you recommend the Little Mermaid?
I would say if you're interested in it, I would say probably the best experience is going to be in the theater with like the big sound, the big visuals. That's going to work way better in the theater than at home. So if you are interested, and again, it's a kids movie. If you have young ones, definitely for you. If you're a little on the fence, I would say skip it or save it for streaming.
I'm kind of in the same I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, I think it's good. If you got kids, take them to see Little Mermaid. Especially, I haven't seen the old one. Like, if you like the old one, I think you'll like this one. Like, it's surprisingly emotional. Like in moments, exactly when it needs to be, just like the old one did. Like, it's good. Would recommend. I want to make that clear in case anybody comes and haunts me later in my life and says you thought the Little Mermaid sucked. No, I didn't. I think it's good. I think it's just as good as the original. I just wanted a little more, like, yeah. And if you're skeptical, like, it'll be on Disney Plus in 90 days, like, and you can watch it all you want. You can watch it, you double feature it with the old one. You can see all the things that are exactly the same. You'll love it. I know I would. And that's The Little Mermaid from Disney. Now, much more important things to move on to. Andy, what are we talking about next?
It's time for the death of cinema.